All right, what is going on, everybody? It is good to be back filming a fresh video, and I am definitely excited for that and to go over this new Victor VK-1 rifle here, because I've been looking to get this thing for about a year. So it's probably been a little over a year since I actually first saw that thing, and I got pretty excited about it for several different reasons we'll get into, because there is a lot going on with this thing. There is one issue we have to address up front, and that's that I was gone for a couple of months right there. And there were all kinds of different conspiracy theories because I just went radio silent, right? People thought I was dead or in jail or some kind of craziness like that. And then all of a sudden there was like 3 or 4 videos in a week, like right out of nowhere. Let's just say that me and my employer had a vastly different opinion on freedom of speech, and I no longer work for that organization, and there will be more on that another day. But onto the rifle, because there is a lot to cover on this Victor VK-1 here, but the basics of it is a fully ambidextrous bolt lock, bolt release, all that good stuff, self-regulating gas piston system designed by one of the biggest names in the industry when it comes to gas piston ARs. But let's tackle the performance first, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. And let's start this off with some sexy gas piston action. Pretty interesting, right? I know that's like a big thing that the AK guys do. They take that dust cover off so you can see the oprod going back and forth. But it was very cool, and I just wanted to kind of show you the design of this thing, the short stroke piston in there, kind of how it reacts, and of course show you that I can literally just hold 2 fingers under that thing, and because of the way this system is designed, it just recoils straight back into you. No muzzle rise, no off to the left, no off to the right. Either with a suppressor or without a suppressor, it really just operates the same way, which is cool because of that self-regulating system. Out on the range, I ran this thing with the can, I ran this thing without the can, I ran it on some trash ammo, I ran it with some of that primo ammo for my boys over at Badlands, all of which ran consistent and without issue. And that's going to have to do with how this piston system is regulated. Suppressed, unsuppressed, good ammo, bad ammo, 55 grain, or 77s. And the reason you get that similar feel, both suppressed, unsuppressed, and kind of no matter whether you're using that kind of lower pressure or higher pressure ammunition, is because it allows the system to bleed off anywhere between 15 to 20,000 PSI of pressure, which is going to do a lot to save all of the moving parts in there. The dwell time in the bolt is also different by 2 degrees for that unlocking process, which is going to help give this rifle a different and more calm feel as well. They did something that most manufacturers should do, and that's go with a better than mil-spec trigger out of the box. In this case, we get the Hyperfire EDT trigger, which is just probably one of the best, not only cost, but also performance ratios for a duty style rifle, while feeling great, but not being too light that it's probably not duty rated, right? Anytime you're gonna get a rifle and you use it for work or something like that, you don't want some kind of like 2-pound competition trigger. You usually wanna stay right around that 4 to 4.5 pound mark, when mil-spec triggers are usually like 6.5 all the way to like 9 or 10 that I've gauged. Some of them and they're just terrible. So well done on the trigger choice, because it gives you that performance you want for a duty setup without being like competition crazy light. Now the ambi controls on here just seem to be in the right spot, because you can stay on fire control. And as I said, it's both bolt lock and bolt release, which makes your malfunction clearance drills far easier than your kind of standard rifle out there, where you have to either, you know, move your hand and then lock the bolt to the rear over here, reach up in there, clear that double feed out. Whatever it is, when you get a full ambi setup like this, it just seems to make your life a little easier. And here's an example of that. This is where an ambi rifle saves you time. As you can see, I've set up a double feed right there. So we're going to use the ambidextrous controls to clear this malfunction out, so you never have to come off fire control, and you're going to see just how much quicker this is, right? So double feeds there, we wouldn't know it unless we set it up. We come up, we get nothing, we got a double feed, put that out, lock the bolt to the rear, clear it, new mag, ride it, fire. Never have to remove that hand from the grip. Stays in position the entire time, rather than having to come off the gun, you know, lock the bolt back to the rear, all that stuff on the offside. You get to do it all right here, which is one of the biggest benefits of a fully ambi rifle. This is probably a good time to thank the crew over at Brownells. They have just been such a huge help to the channel over the years, and just a massive structure of support for the industry as a whole. Now they have supported me and my website, which is where I handle all of the build lists and parts lists. Pretty much everything that I talk about in these videos, I have those items and descriptions over there so you can check them out, do all of your own research. If you're interested in any of that, that will be the first link in the description down below. But they're just an awesome company to work with, and they've helped me grow, and they've helped a lot of people out in the industry. So when it comes time, think Brownells. Let's wrap up the performance here. So I had zero issues with any of the ammunition types I tried, from that cheap Turkish stuff that I've finally shot in all of now, all the way up through my Gucci kind of 77 grain ammo from the boys over at Badlands, which is what I use for all of my scoped carbine and kind of precision needs. It's gonna run all that stuff. And not only is it gonna run it, but it's gonna run it consistently with a can, without a can. That self-regulating gas system, they just seem to get it right. The ambi controls were awesome. They were right where I needed them to be. The thing ran without a hitch. Now, how about the feel of this thing, right? Because that does change things a little bit, right? So let's start with that rail. So it just seemed to be the right size. Some rails are just too big. Some rails are too thin and you get too hot because it's too close to the barrel. This one seems to be just the right size to get your pressure pads on, have a good firm grip, and not being like overly huge so it's almost like unwieldy out there. So well done on the size of the rail, because it seems to be some companies go one extreme or the other. Overall, the thing just feels great, all the way down to the choice of the furniture. I'm a huge fan of the K2 grips. I think a lot of you out there know that. I'm a huge fan of the Magpul MOE SL stocks. I do like them better than some of their older stuff on the market. So the choice of everything from the furniture to the trigger and pretty much everything they did to it just seemed to perform. It fit well for me, and overall, I really liked the setup. So the performance is exactly what I expected and wanted to see from this thing, having had it in my hands a couple of times at events. It showed through out there on the range in my testing, right at about 1,000 rounds right now. And of course, she's pretty, just a good looking rifle. Not that aesthetics are everything, but I've really never heard anybody out there in the world say, God, you know, I wish my significant other was just this much less attractive. Now, there were two big things I noticed while running this rifle as far as performance goes. The first of which being, and very important, when you have your can on here, specifically this 5.56 flow, those cans are low back pressure, so much more of that stuff's going out the front. You're not getting as much gas back in the face. That combined with this self-regulating gas system in here and how it bleeds gas off means that as you are behind this rifle, you're getting like zero gas in the face, right? Some suppressors on some rifles, even other piston rifles, you just get gassed out of existence. Now, where this becomes very important, think about us righties out there. You know, we've probably got a charging handle that's gonna help bleed off gas or some design in there, but the ejection port and everything's over here. If you're a lefty, right, you're gonna eat all the gas in the world. And I noticed that at an event when my buddy Nick from PewView was firing this thing left-handed, and he was like, wow, I'm getting like no gas in the face, which is pretty awesome because usually lefties just get gassed out of existence. So that's a definite positive, especially being an ambi setup, that you can run this without the fear of getting all of that additional carbon, maybe some vaporized lead, all that stuff just right back in your face. Almost no blowback in the face. You can't even tell it's there. All right, let's get down to some of the design. What makes this thing any different than any other DI gun or piston gun that's out there in the world? So I think this has like 8 utility patents on it, not design patents, utility patents. So you know this ain't no basic B rifle right off the bat because of all that work that went into that. To speak directly to the gas system in here, it was made by somebody that's very well known for gas piston systems, Paul Leitner Wise. Now, if you don't know that name, how about this name? LWRC, Leitner Wise Rifle Company. So he is the individual that designed that setup, right? So pretty well-known gas system in the industry. However, this one is very different and has things that other gas systems don't. One of which being how low profile it is. It has an S7 tool steel one-piece guide rod. It's also got 6 gas ports on it rather than 3. Now that's gonna do something really good for you. That's gonna allow the first 3 gas ports to move the action of this thing during the cycle of operation, while the next 3 are going to begin bleeding off gas out of the system. And since that gas system is low profile and has a short setup in there, that's why the recoil impulse drives straight back into the pocket of your shoulder and doesn't rise straight up or to the left or to the right or any of that garbage. Straight back into the pocket, and it feels consistent no matter what ammo, suppressed or unsuppressed. There are also some differences in the bolt and carrier group going on here. The biggest one being the cam path here is 22.5 degrees, which is Stoner's original design. That's what Stoner wanted. Mil-spec, however, is 20.7. Now that causes a few issues. When your bolt is unlocking on the mil-spec version at 20.7, that can cause some drags on the lugs of the bolt with the lugs of the barrel extension. Obviously, that's not optimal. The second of which being, if you've ever seen your cam pin relief cut area in your upper receiver, that little half moon cutout where the cam pin rests, and it's kind of like destroyed, or there's a chunk of aluminum material missing, where you can see the cam pin path that's just gouged out of the upper receiver. With a 22.5-degree cam pin, you don't get that. A byproduct of this is also that the action is extremely smooth. I mean, when you are locking and unlocking with the charging handle, you can barely tell there's any at all. I mean, the most minimal amount of touching going on with those lugs. Another byproduct of that is going to be they're going to interface perfectly with your barrel extension, which is going to provide you a more consistent lockup, and it's going to drive accuracy. Another nice little touch is that the cam pin is marked with an arrow, so you put it back in the bolt the same every single time. Now, if you read the forums, or there is some research out there on this, if you put your cam pin back in there in different ways on hard-use rifles, it can shorten the life of your bolt in there, because that is a little failure point inside every rifle that uses a bolt system like this. So by putting it in there the same every time with the help of that arrow marked on there, you're going to extend and prolong the life of your entire bolt and carrier. Now, due to all these changes, you also get an additional 2 degrees of dwell time. What that's going to do is help that system dump approximately 15 to 20,000 PSI, which is going to overall make this rifle feel and operate at lower pressures, which means less wear and tear, less felt recoil, and overall prolong the life of everything, to include your shoulder. The buffer tube here is dry film lube. That just gives you a little bit of a smoother action. It's not going to have that kind of gritty, noisy spring dragging against the buffer tube feeling. You'll get an extreme heavy duty buffer retaining pin in there, which is definitely going to hold that buffer and spring in place. You're also going to get a pretty crazy barrel here. This is a custom profile with heavy fluting that is straight for rigidity, helps with cooling, weight savings. It's been shot peened and sandblasted. So there's going to be all these little crevices on the surface of that fluting area. And what that's all supposed to do is basically give you the most rigid, lightweight barrel that's going to dissipate heat 300 to 400% faster than your kind of standard heavy profile barrel. That barrel is made out of 4150 chromoly vanadium. It is cold hammer forged, and it is nitride coated. Now, if you don't know what nitride coating is, when that is done right, it makes your lands and your grooves and your barrel material stupid hard. It's going to extend the life of the barrel while maintaining extreme accuracy. It has an easy to remove gas block, which is notch fitted into the barrel. That's going to make sure that it's consistently in place when you put it back together after servicing your gas system. And to tap that barrel off, you get your choice of a Sons of Liberty Gunworks Nox or the Huxworks muzzle device for your suppressor of choice. That rail on there, you probably notice, is that monolithic style. Like we discussed, you get that additional 1913 slot in the upper receiver. It's not going anywhere with this anti-rotation. You get plenty of venting, and you get the M-LOK at 3, 6, and 9. Another cool small touch here is all of your controls from your safety selector, your bolt lock, bolt release, your magazine release, those are billet machined rather than cast parts. So they have a completely different feel and aesthetic to them, which is just a nice touch. And for a gas piston setup in a 16-inch configuration, comes in at only 6 pounds and 8 ounces. Now, I know some of you out there want to see that spec sheet, so here's a little bit of elevator music. All right, there are a couple of things we got to clean up when it comes to warranty and some maintenance, stuff like that. Warranty, lifetime warranty. You break it, manufacturer's defect, anything like that, if that was a problem rifle, they're going to take it back, they're going to fix it. If you're a law enforcement guy and you use that rifle out there on duty, your gun goes into evidence, they're going to give you a loaner, so you're not without a rifle, or at least without a rifle that you don't actually like carrying. That's a pretty cool program. Having been in law enforcement a lot of my adult life and having needed a loaner setup, I can appreciate that. When it comes to your cleaning, they recommend, if you're running this thing hard out there with the can, stuff like that, about every 10,000 rounds, get in there, clean that gas piston system out. Also, if you are running this for a duty rifle, say like a SWAT team, dedicated can, and you are pushing the limits of this thing, just running it really, really hard, they recommend changing the oprod in there about 5,000 rounds. It costs 38 bucks, super easy to do. And when you think about it, if you guys out there running Mark 18s or other SBRs, stuff like that, you're supposed to be maintaining springs and parts and gas rings at about that same interval. So there's really nothing new there. And 38 bucks, no big expense. Now, since I always get asked, how is that thing actually set up? Let's talk about what I got going on here. Moonlight Industry Sling. Love what that guy's doing out there. Makes some sweet gear in the business. Now, how about that noise fighters mount right there, right? So That's just another way the industry's come out with to get your optic, your D-ball A3, whatever, you know, night vision setup you're running out there, get it up a little higher. If you're like me, you've got that giraffe neck, you need it higher, or you're running nods or something out there. This is a great way to do it. It's cheaper than some others in the market. It's made in the USA, and it doesn't look like two giraffes getting down out there on the Sahara. D-ball right there, good stuff. It's gonna do everything we need to do out there in the civilian world. Got my Emissary hand stop right here. I really like what these guys are doing. They seem to be making their products just the right size. They got a great feel to them. They're lightweight, cool stuff. Amazing what can be done with a 3D printer these days. Standard pressure pad from Steiner. My HRT AWLS light, love this. It's got a toggle switch on the back. You can adjust the tension, whatever you want. 100 Concepts light cover. Really dig what these guys are doing. A little expensive for what it is, but good stuff. Of course, that Hux 556 flow, and then a little Arasaka barricade stop up there in case I got to dump this into something. Other than that, you know, the furniture, I dig it. Like we talked about the Magpul MOE SL, I dig this stock. I like it more than some of the others. And the K2 grip just seems to be one of my favorites, especially since I like a more neutral grip angle. So it's clean, got exactly what I want and need on here. And overall, I thoroughly have enjoyed this rifle. And of course, all of that stuff will be over at the parts list, first link in the description, should you want to do any of your own research on that stuff. Now, because nobody gets a free pass on the channel, any problems, anything I would change. Mechanically, function-wise, flawless, perfect. Even on that last batch of cheap Turkish ammo, so glad I'm done with that stuff. Now, no mechanical issues, nothing I would say as far as functionality, anything like that. All right, sorry for the mid-video break, but I've got a little bit of an update on the VK-1 here. So I had it back out to the range, fired several hundred more rounds through it. Went out, had some fun at night, got the D-ball all set up. So just under 2,000 rounds. Wanted to break that gas system down again, kind of see how things were going. And upon doing that, I noticed I could not get the oprod out. So the oprod goes through what would be your gas tube hole right there, or the gas tube port in the upper receiver. The original material they were making the oprod out of when I got this rifle, apparently where it contacts the bolt in there to operate the system, it would mushroom out just a little bit. You can't see it with the naked eye, but you can just barely feel it if you stick your finger up in there and touch it. That was just enough movement of material to where I couldn't pull the oprod out. I reached out to them. They're going to send another one, replacement, easy. They are going to a different type of metal to alleviate that happening again. They're going to be doing something to the upper receiver. I didn't get all the details on that, but it shouldn't be an issue on further production models. However, it did happen to this one, so you guys need to know about that. Effectively, what I have to do is when they get the new oprod into me, I will take the system apart. I will get a Dremel. I will cut the old oprod, drop half out the bottom, pull the other half out the front, drop the new one in. Should be good to go. Now, like I said, nobody gets a free pass here on the channel. Do enjoy the rifle. That problem did come up. Hopefully it won't be an ongoing or a major issue, but since it did happen, I needed to make sure you guys were well aware of that. Victory Industries is aware of it, and they have worked on that fix. If I get into the weeds here, there are two things I would like to see. This is preference, this is my opinion. First of which being, I like a 45-degree safety, right? Now, this one's ambi, it's got the stubby side on the off side, which is awesome. You should always run a stubby there. That way you're not hitting your finger when you're trying to operate it. But I like a 45 because I've had some damage to my hand and sometimes this thumb just doesn't want to work. So a lot of times when I'm flipping the safety off, I actually have to resort to my trigger finger because this hand will just kind of go numb on me to an extent. So I love a 45 for that reason. Again, personal preference. A lot of you guys out there like the 90. I don't care. You do you, boo. The rail, it's great. It's going to do everything you need it to do. Got venting, M-lock, all the good stuff you want. But I'm just a huge fan of 7-sided M-lock. And I think it's because I've very rarely, but I have needed that one little kind of in the corner M-lock slot before. And that's not the biggest issue anymore because companies make all the 45-degree offset now to tuck stuff up in here. It wasn't like that back in the day, so we had to kind of make things work as they were. And I think that's why I'm kind of partial to 7-sided M-lock, or maybe it's an aesthetic thing for me. And there's nothing wrong with this. Again, totally personal preference, and I'm totally getting in the weeds to find something because, again, nobody gets a free pass. Now, the first time I saw this thing and ran it at an event, I thought to myself, that is going to be a wallet bruiser. It's going to be outrageously expensive, but it did not turn out that way. So think about 13.7 pin welded muzzle device, suppressor ready, all the good controls, full ambi, self-regulating short stroke piston system, good furniture, great trigger out of the box, ready to go with just whatever optic you choose, light, whatever accessories you want to put on there. Very solid setup. So coming in at $23.99 galactic credits. Now I know some people may say that's kind of expensive, but let's think about the market today. It's not 2010 where things are bargain basement cheap anymore, right? Think about the cost of milk and eggs and everything out there in the world. Gas has gone up, manufacturing has gone up, raw materials have gone up. When you move into something at this level with these options that seems to be this quality for how it runs, things are going to be more expensive. This is not a cheap $800 budget rifle, but I think for the way it comes, the way it's built, and everything that this rifle does, I don't think that is a price that is outrageous. I don't even think that that's really that expensive for what it is. Now that may be out of your budget, but just because it's out of your budget does not mean it's not worth it. However, if you want to head to the bargain basement bin, I've got an option for you, because say you've got a lower all rigged up, it's perfect and it's exactly what you want. You can buy just the upper on this, get all the benefits of everything that's going on upstairs, and it's going to save you several $100s. So with that being said, you've got two options now, the full Monty or just an upper receiver to slap on your lower, which is a way to save a little bit of coin. So with that, make sure you get subscribed to the channel, keep doing it on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, and I will see you on the next one.